Okay, we're preparing to go live on YouTube now. My name is Christina Dillabo. I'm the Director of Communications for the Desert Southwest Conference. Welcome to another Tuesday Talks with Church Communicators. Today is November 2nd, 2021. Sorry, I'm still dealing with neck issues. I don't know where my brain went. What was I going to say? 1997? I don't know what I was going to say. So today, I guess it's a little bit of a scatterbrain day. I was trying to decide which way to go over for today's topics, which would be either going over that Resource UMC page, and maybe that'll spring up some ideas for you guys of what you can glean off of it, or some questions. Or I could go over Facebook page management stuff. And you know what? I think we already decided, or I decided, that we'll try to squeeze in both. So I'm going to share my screen. This one. Scooch this up. Okay, oh, this is an event that I just found out about, which is not what we're going to be talking about. Here we go. Here's Resource UMC page. And the way I get to this page, because I never remember, is it really just resourceumc.org, or is there a different URL? I usually start out by going to umc.org, and from there I look for whatever I'm looking for, whether it's asking a question or getting to Resource UMC. So here on the Resource UMC page, I'm going to minimize you guys. So if you want to say something, I can't see your video right now, so you'll need to just speak up. Okay, so the latest stuff in here, I'm going to just go over the things that I noticed that seem to be of interest right now, books and studies for Advent. So we'd be able to share with the pastor or maybe small group leaders information from there. Some stuff about Christmas. This might be a good article that you could republish in your church newsletter if you're kind of light on content. And if you're ever looking for the special Sundays, looking for those information cards and donation stuff, you can find that, like the student day special, pastor and leader kit for student day is linked here. They'll always end up sharing whatever's the next one that's coming up. And the printed resources do come from Outreach, which is a company that some of our churches don't align with. So just keep that in mind. But there is digital resources that you can use. So that way, if you don't want to support Outreach by ordering your printed pieces through them, you could just use the digital resources. Okay, let's see here. Agencies. It's more about Student Day Sunday. Okay, in the My Portal, that's where you would go to adjust what are the things that you are getting via email. If you're getting too much stuff or not the right type of information from the United Methodist Church, you can go here to adjust what it is that you want to receive. And yeah, here's another Advent thing, which could be really cool for your pastor to maybe use, consider, whatever. Some how-to information there. Well, that's pretty much it. Of course, you can also look up things by topic. And if you're looking for a specific agency, you can find the links there. So that's the big deal with Resource UMC and things that I found, or just a walk through with it with you guys. The other piece that I wanted to talk to you about, I'm going to stop sharing for just a sec, is about Facebook. So last week I had received an email from one of our pastors saying that their church's Facebook page was taken down by Facebook saying that they violated Facebook's policies or something, and they weren't really sure why exactly. It seemed like if Facebook was saying that they took it down because they're impersonating someone on Facebook and that violates the policies. And when they clicked through, what they saw was their logo, which includes the cross and flame. So for me, that brought up a couple issues without really knowing a whole lot about it. So number one, if they're showing the cross and flame, that church's logo uses the cross and flame, but it's not just the cross and flame. It also has some language really close up next to the cross and flame. So let's say this is the cross and flame. The language is like right in this space. So that violates the copyright for the cross and flame logo. And that's okay if you have an exception, or a legal exception, I think it is what it's called, from the United Methodist Church. So if your church has a logo that uses the cross and flame and something else that either, maybe the cross and flame is a different color than red and black, maybe there's words in there, maybe it's very close to the cross and flame but slightly altered. Those are all situations where you could be infringing on the copyright status of that cross and flame logo. Doesn't mean you have to change your church's logo, but you might need to get an exception from the United Methodist Church, official ruling saying that yes, your church can legally use that altered logo. I've never heard of an instance where they were not accepted. The Desert Southwest Conference, for example, used to have a logo that looked like a sun with the cross and flame in the middle of it. And, we had to do the same thing, and it was approved, and we could use it. So it's not a scary thing. If your church has something like that, go through the process, make sure you submit the logo to get it approved, and you don't have to worry about copyright issues. I'll send you guys a link in my post-meeting wrap-up with, it's either an article or something that's like the starting point for submitting that information. Okay, so let me write myself a note, UMC logo. And then, so the other thing that, thinking back to that church where the Facebook page was taken down by Facebook is, and actually it was three things that I was thinking about. The second possibility is if they use an email address. Let's see. So Facebook's policy is every person that uses Facebook can only use Facebook through one account. And so whatever email address you use to access your personal Facebook profile stuff is the same email address that you're supposed to use for running your church's Facebook page, for running your business Facebook page, for whatever. You can't have a separate one for yourself. So, for example, years ago I had a communications@dscumc.org Facebook profile that I created so that I could use that for work stuff and to test things on Facebook and whatever, in addition to my personal Facebook profile. And it was okay for a while, but now if I try to log into communications@dscumc.org on Facebook, I won't be able to, because I have to prove that I am communications, that that's me. And I don't have any official paperwork saying that that's my email address or anything like that. And if I was to submit my photo ID, they would see that my photo matches my personal email account and not the communications. So I thought maybe that's one reason why that page was taken down. If maybe they have like a church email address and there isn't a person that represents the church. The admins on there would have to be like maybe the pastor, maybe the church communicator, maybe a volunteer at their church. But it can't be info@abcchurch.org, because that's not a real person, unless info is maybe Christina Dillabo, let's say, and that's my only account on Facebook using that info@abcchurch.org. So that would be the other possibility. So I don't know if they're really, I imagine that Facebook is cracking down on this right now because of how ramped up things are with spamming, spoofing, and just negative stuff happening on Facebook. And Facebook is really in the they're dealing with a really bad PR situation right now because they don't have real people that are answering the phone or all that if something goes bad with Facebook. So they're trying really hard to improve their security measures to prevent hacking and all that. So I imagine that could be a reason. The last one that I thought about is the reason why a church's Facebook page maybe would have gone down is just somebody being annoying, being mean, that decided, haha, I'm going to have a good time and let's find out what happens if I report my church's Facebook page as not legitimate. And, then Facebook would need to review it and make their decision and take it down or not take it down. So anybody can make a complaint against someone, and there is at least a period where Facebook or whatever the situation is would need to review that. And so maybe it was during that review period that the page was suspended for a while. I don't know. So I haven't figured out yet what happened with the church. I'm waiting to hear back from that pastor. But if this happens to you, I did get a link to an article from Facebook where they explained here's why we would do this and steps to consider about why we would do it, I guess. And there was a little instructions about what to do to make it go back up. You do have to go through the process of proving this is a legitimate page and we really are who we say we are. And so what they said is that at the top there's going to be a button where you click it to, I'm not thinking of the right legal term, but it's basically to argue it. And so you go through that, and then they also had a link to contact them. So I'll provide you guys with the link to that article about Facebook in case, hopefully you never have to deal with it, but if you ever do, then you've got some information about that. Finally, the last thing I want to share with you guys, I'll also send you an article that came through my path this past week that was about how to deal with trolls. I'm sure you guys have heard of that term. When people post negative things, they just want the attention or their reason for doing it. I have no idea, but it's a pretty good article from the United Methodist Church about how to manage that. So actually, I'll send that to you guys, but I'm curious. Let's do a round robin about how do you manage Facebook trolls for your Facebook page. If you're not the one that does it, you could share what you think happens with the church. And if you have a policy in place that already sets parameters, I'd love to hear about that. And what else? And maybe where did you come up with the policy? How did it develop? So we'll go in order. And first person that wants to volunteer, raise your hand, and then that person will select the next person. Okay, ready, set, go. Man, you guys were so quick. I missed it.
I'll go first.
There you go. Thanks, Greg.
First of all, I don't have anything to do with the church Facebook page. That's handled by the office administrator. And I have not talked to him about what he does or how he manages things. I don't think we're putting that much out on Facebook, as much as we should probably. But I think it's one of those we're being cautious on what we put out. People need to know something. There are other resources available. So I'm negligent in not finding out what exactly we're doing on Facebook. Maybe I need to take a bigger interest in it. Personally, I am not on Facebook. So it's one of those, as far as administration, I leave that up to somebody who knows what they're doing. And that's all I really need to say about it, I think. So, I'll go to Jim.
Oh, there again, I'm not one of the ones that, can you hear me here? Okay. I'm not one of the ones that, or I'm not the Facebook administrator. I can post to it. They have it set up that way. But we had very little content that I would say was inappropriate. I think I would be tempted to delete it if it were too bad. It's a fine line that with trolls, we try and refer to the people who would be in charge of that particular entity or function and go that way. I guess we've been lucky. We haven't had too many of those either. So for what it's worth. Why don't we go to Chris next?
All right. Yeah, I was going to say we've been really lucky that we haven't had a whole lot of trolls either. And I do on the admin on our Facebook page. We do have one guy who grew up in the church. He's in his late 20s now, and he just likes being really contrary. That's his thing. That's his jam. He will try and argue any point just because he can. So a lot of times with him, people either just ignore him, or if it's something pretty inflammatory, we'll just delete it. So, and that's how we handle it. I've definitely been tempted to engage before and have a couple times, but that's not the best way to handle it. So now I just ignore him or delete him. So Annie, what about you?
We're blessed. We haven't had that issue. But then I haven't been looking for it. That hasn't been brought to my attention, but now that talking about it, I will go back and look. And I do believe that ignoring and deleting would be the best. Engaging in confrontation doesn't work. It only fuels the fire. So at the moment, we've been blessed. We haven't had that issue. Sherry.
Hi, I don't take care of our Facebook page for our church. Our ministry director actually wears two hats and does that. And honestly, I haven't seen anything on our Facebook page that looks inappropriate. So he either grabs it if it happens, or it's just not happening at all. So I think that's a great thing. There's always going to be somebody somewhere at some point, though. Yeah. It's just the world. Oh, sorry. Carla?
So being that I'm not at a local church, I can't really answer that. But I will be completely honest with you. Like Greg, I don't do Facebook, so I don't even go and check what my church is doing. So I don't even know what that answer is. So Marguerite.
I do run sometimes the posts on Facebook and our Instagram. I do a lot of the graphics. Never really seen any inappropriate comments. We mostly get a lot of mean-spirited messages rather than comments on our post. Usually saying that we're blasphemous, which I find pretty funny. But yeah, typically we get like parishioners engaging on our posts, so nothing ever seems too bad. Most of Pastor Kimberly is the one who posts the most, and I think if there are any negative comments, she's quick to delete them or to just ignore them so that it doesn't get out of hand. And I think the only one left is Annie. Did you already go? Yeah, so Anne.
Hi, I'm Anne. I'm from Desert Spring Church in Las Vegas. I am the administrator on our Facebook account. And like Margarita, I have gotten more kind of people wanting to argue through Facebook Messenger than through our posts. I have had to hide comments, which is different from deleting them in the fact that the poster can still read their comment as well as their friends, but no one else. So it's a safer way to, unless it's truly inflammatory and gives the wrong impression of your church, it's a safer way to deal with it, in my opinion. I do a live prayer gathering on Facebook on Wednesday night. And I so far have not had to deal with trolls in that setting, but I am nervous that because we are live, there could be damage done before I realize it. And because it's a prayer gathering, I sometimes close my eyes in the process of doing that. So I am looking for a moderator to join me on those lives and make sure that the trolls are quickly hushed. And that's it.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to add to that we can use it as a, what would you say, an education tool too, because not trolls, but I've had a few people make open remarks that probably should not be posted for the world. And I've tried to coach them that, you have to realize that we're opening this up to the whole world here. And if you want to make it private, in one case, it was a prayer request, please do it to the pastor or, to the appropriate person in the community, because, you have to be real careful with that.
Great tips, guys. So Anne mentioned the difference between hiding a comment versus deleting. So that's a great point as far as being safer. I know years ago, I think we were in the process of developing a social media policy. And we have that. I'll send it to you guys, but I'm going to take another look at it because things have changed from when we first created it. And I believe in that policy, if I remember correctly. This was years ago, people, like 10 years ago maybe, that we were working on this policy. So I'm certain it needs to be updated. But I'm going to send it to you guys with a quick update. Just not as a end all be all, use this because it is perfect and awesome, but as a starting point for you guys to take a look at what are some of the things that we were talking about, and some best practices for then and what might be better now. So just use it as a discussion. I'm hoping that down the road, maybe with the Communication Commission, we'll have something like more, updated, something better that you guys can just take and pretty much run with it. But so hide versus delete. So years ago, I would sometimes have to delete comments because we would get a lot of, similar to what Margarita was saying, comments like, being blasphemous or homophobic, or I don't know what else. I can't remember what the deals were. And so maybe I would delete it, not knowing that, if this person is posting on a regular basis, complaining about us or hating on us, basically, they're also going to post about, and how dare you delete my comment? It's proof that blah, blah, blah. And, it was just, I was trying to not engage, but deleting that post was actually engaging them and lighting that fire and made them want to post even more. So hiding it hides it from everybody else that goes to our page, but that person thinks that their post is still there, and maybe that'll just kind of quiet them down because nobody else can see them. So they're not engaging with other people because nobody else is responding to their post, arguing what they're saying. So that kind of helps. But then, if it is really just bad, just terrible, there's no goodness in there whatsoever. It's not really just an inquisitive mind arguing, well, but have you thought about the other side of that argument? It's just hateful stuff. Then you could delete it. You could also report them to Facebook if it's, violating policies there. You could ban them from or block them. I don't remember if it's called banning or blocking, so that they can't engage with your profile or page anymore. So there's different steps that you could consider, and all of that should be outlined in your social media policy, so that if ever there's a situation, let's say it was previous member from your church that is coming back and posting these terrible things, then it's not you being a bad guy, and nobody can be upset at you because you made that call and block them or ban them from the page. It's, hey, that's what's in our policy. I'm following what the policy is. That person reached that level. Here's the first instance, whatever it is that you're going to do. You can use that policy as your kind of reinforcer or whatever. And if you can hear a bunch of noises in the background, I'm sorry, my husband's sick. So he's walking around the house spreading some germs. I'm just kidding. Okay, so blocking, reporting, hiding versus delete, having a moderator assigned, that's great. I mean, especially like maybe during the holidays. I realize we have limited number of volunteers, and our volunteers have a limited amount of time that they're willing to volunteer. So if you were to give them a specific, can you just check on Mondays? And maybe somebody else, if you would check on Wednesdays, or maybe it's 2 weeks before Christmas and 2 weeks after Christmas. Could you check during those seasons? Different times when people are much more likely to go to your Facebook page. Maybe you have a lot more content around that time. Strongly consider asking for volunteers to help out just for a short period by being a moderator. And then you have to have some kind of rules or policies for them to follow. And a moderator, and with Facebook admins, you can set someone to be just an editor or a moderator or something else like that. And maybe you don't want to give them even those kinds of access to your Facebook admin side. So maybe it's just asking people can you just check in every day? Would you commit to checking our church's Facebook page every day from this time to this time, or whenever they want to, but every day, and just scan for negative posts, or maybe make a nice post, whatever. Another option for responding to negative posts would be to invite them to talk about the conversation offline. Whatever the situation is. I'm hearing that you don't agree with blah, 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 or I've seen a lot of negative posts, and I want to help you with this, or I want to get to the bottom of it, or whatever it is. And really the best person to respond to your concerns is not me, the Facebook admin, but maybe our pastor could talk to you about our church's theology, or whatever, the mission leader can talk to you about your concerns with that project, something along those lines. So if you could send me your information, I'll connect you with our mission leader, or our mission leader will reach out to you, something like that. Then that kind of helps them feel like they've been heard and noticed, and they can continue the complaining or whatever offline, and there's no more negative stuff on your page. The big thing to think about with your page is as far as when to hide it, delete it, or respond to them. I mean, ignoring them really today is almost as bad as engaging with them, because what it's showing to people that are visiting your church's Facebook page is the church doesn't care. They're absent. They're not there. If there's just negative posts there and nobody says anything, nobody responded, it just seems like, I wonder what the church is really like. Probably nobody even goes to worship, because nobody, it's a reflection of your church. So you do need to be engaged and active, but you don't need to respond to those posts like, well, sorry, we don't agree with you. It doesn't need to be like that. Just invite them to a conversation offline. That's been the most successful for us for the conference. And often what I'll do is just send them a direct message. And when I do that, I can see also if they are a legitimate profile or not. That's been like a huge time saver, because then it turns out like, I'm not going to waste my time with this person. They're not even real. I'll just block them from the page and delete all their posts. Easy squeezy. So then the other thing to consider for your Facebook or social media policy is coming up with a purpose and kind of rules for each channel. So if your church's Facebook page is intended to be a place of inspiring a closer relationship to Christ. Maybe that's the purpose for it. Then if you're sharing a post about the rummage sale that's coming up that supports the mission projects, and somebody's posting negative things about it, that they don't agree with whatever, or this church is awful or whatever, then you can use that purpose of the page as a reason to why you're hiding or deleting their posts. I'm so sorry you feel this way, or I understand you don't agree with blah blah blah, or I understand you're upset. Please note that this page is intended for increasing or whatever it was that I said, relationship with Christ. To help with this, I don't know, something about bringing them towards a conversation offline to discuss their concerns about the rummage sale or whatever. Something like that could help diffuse the situation. You're addressing it, you're showing you're attentive, you're showing you care, and you're not being a meanie or anything like that. So something to consider. Any other thoughts about that? Okay, who wants to share what you guys are doing for the holidays? Anybody have some ideas or some stuff you're mulling around with? Not so much? Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, a lot of times it's nice to be able to get together at something like this and hear that, oh, so-and-so has a great idea. Where'd you get, that worked out great last year. You know what I could do is look for the videos where we shared stuff like that, and I'll include that in the response email. So you can watch those for what people did last year for the holidays. There was some really cool ideas. I remember my church ended up sharing their idea with their baggies that they were giving out, and it was pretty neat. So we'll do that. Then if there isn't anything else, I will close us out. Anybody want to share any last thoughts or anything? Doing good? All right, then, let me see. I think that next week, maybe, just want to make sure that I am going to be on. Yes, I am. Okay, never mind. Then I'll see you guys next week, Tuesday.